Stimulating talk.
It gets those synapses in the brain firing really fast.
All the time. The number one internet talk station where your opinion counts. VoiceAmerica.com.
You're listening to Relationship Radio with your host, Jim Duzak, an inside look at marriage, divorce, and midlife dating. Now, back to Jim Duzak.
Welcome to Relationship Radio. Today's show will be a little bit different from our usual format. I don't have a guest with me today, but instead I'll be talking about one big topic the entire show, and that topic is personal ads. Now, I use the term personal ad to refer not just to ads people place in newspapers, magazines, or in the dating categories on sites like Craigslist.com, but also to online dating profiles or really anything that people write for the purpose of trying to meet other people for dating or romance. This is a subject that you might say is near and dear to my heart. I met my wife through a personal ad I placed in a newspaper many years ago, and the two of us were featured as what they called a success story, and I guess it was, in a 1980s era book called Getting Personal. After the book came out, I started getting approached by friends and sometimes total strangers to help them with writing ads and responding to other people's ads. Later on, I owned and operated a small dating service whose members were mainly over 40 and just starting to get back into the dating world after a divorce or widowhood or the breakup of a long-term relationship. I helped a lot of the members write more effective ads and, in general, helped them to use our services more effectively. Based on what I had learned from my own experience and the experience of others, I started writing articles and giving talks about what makes a good personal ad. When I wrote my book, Midlife Divorce and the Rebirth of Commitment, I devoted an entire chapter to personal ads because I felt that anyone re-entering the dating world today in their 40s, 50s, or 60s needs to know how to use the online dating process to their advantage. And online dating begins with writing an ad or profile that will attract the kind of person you're hoping to meet, an ad that will present you in the best possible light, but without distorting the truth. In today's show, I'll be giving you what I call the 10 commandments of personal ads. These are, in my opinion, the 10 most fundamental principles of writing an effective ad or a good response to someone else's ad. They are also, unfortunately, some of the most commonly violated principles, particularly the first one, which is my first commandment: be honest. Dishonesty is rampant in the world of personal ads. Married people pretend to be single. Separated people pretend to be divorced. People lie about their age, their weight, their education, their jobs, and just about anything else you can think of. And if they're not actually lying, they're being misleading. They call themselves height-weight proportionate when they know they have to lose 50 pounds. Why do people do this? Don't they realize that their lies and distortions will be exposed once they meet someone, if not sooner? All I can say is that these people must feel that they need to say all the right things, quote-unquote, even if they're lies, in order to compete, in the same way that some people invent or exaggerate things on their work resumes. But they're wrong about that. You can tell the truth and still say the right things, and I'll get into that shortly. But right now, I'll repeat commandment number 1, be honest. Commandment number 2 is say more about yourself and less about who you envision your ideal person to be. A lot of people seem to think that a personal ad is a wish list to Santa. I'll just say what I'm looking for, and maybe I'll find that person waiting for me under the Christmas tree. So, you have a middle-aged man who says he wants someone young, slim, and sexy, without giving any reason why a young, slim, sexy woman would want him. Or you have a woman who says she wants someone successful, charming, and handsome, without giving any reason why a successful, charming, handsome man would want her. You may, in your mind, know that you're willing to compromise on these things, but someone reading your ad will interpret everything you say as non-negotiable demands. This is particularly true if the reader is someone just getting back into the dating world. That kind of person is often nervous about the whole process and is probably afraid of rejection. Why should he or she respond to an ad that sounds demanding, uncompromising, and judgmental? And remember, everything you say in your ad about the person you hope to meet will limit the number of responses you'll get. It's one thing to limit that universe for a valid reason, but it's something else entirely to limit it because you're hoping to get lucky and find some fantasy person. So instead of listing all the attributes you hope to find in someone else, give your readers what they want, which is information about you. Tell them who you are. Not in a dishonest way or in a way that overwhelms them with details, but in a way that whets their appetite just enough to make them want to know more. Which brings me to my third commandment. Emphasize your best qualities. When I said that you shouldn't lie or mislead, I didn't necessarily mean you have to list each and every one of your shortcomings in your ad. Telling the truth is not the same as full disclosure. What I mean by that is, if, for example, you're a high school dropout, you don't have to say that in your ad as long as you're not claiming to be college educated. If you're unemployed, you don't have to say that in your ad as long as you're not claiming to have a good job. Obviously, these facts will come out eventually, and because of that, some people prefer to list all the negatives up front, so there won't be any disappointments later on. That's fine, but if all you list are the negatives, there won't be a later on. Your ad has to say something about your positive qualities. Those qualities might be physical ones, a great smile, beautiful eyes, sexy legs. Or they might be personality traits or spiritual qualities, a compassionate nature, good listening skills, a great sense of humor. Or they could be your interests and passions, skiing, cooking, ballroom dancing, writing poetry. Whatever they are, they're you. They help define who you are. They give a reader something to identify with, a reason to contact you. So those are the first three commandments. Be honest, say more about yourself and less about the fantasy person you hope to meet, and emphasize your best qualities. And closely connected with commandment number 3, emphasizing your best qualities, is never apologize for being who you are. All too often, particularly in ads written by women, I see what I call the unnecessary apology. I'll give you some examples. Size 18, but I work out 3 times a week. Working in retail, but I hope to use my MBA soon. 50-something, but I look much younger. The but in all these statements is a dead giveaway that the person is not truly comfortable with who she is. The reader will usually see the but as a red flag and move on to the next ad. If you're a size 18, or if you're 55 years old, or you're working in a job you're overqualified for, just say it if you want to say it, but without explanation or apology. People are attracted to positive energy, and if you feel comfortable with your body, your age, your position in life, people will be attracted to you. Another way women apologize in ads without using the words I'm sorry, is by saying things like, my friends say I'm pretty. You must have seen that a lot. The woman writing that may say that because she doesn't want to sound boastful or bragging or egotistical. But the man reading it, what he hears is, well, I don't really think I'm pretty, but some of my friends have said that, so you never know. Maybe they're right, but then again, maybe they were just being nice to me. That's not exactly a positive message. If you're pretty, don't be coy about it. Just say so. And as for being boastful, I remember the young Muhammad Ali, Cassius Clay in those days, who was often accused of bragging and whose answer to that was, hey, if it's true, it ain't bragging. So that's commandment number 4, never apologize for being who you are. Commandment number 5 is post a good photograph of yourself. Unless you're certain that it would embarrass you personally or professionally to have your photo on a dating site, you're going to get many more responses if you post a picture with your ad. Keep in mind, people are so suspicious of what other people say in their ads, so skeptical of the self-descriptions they read, that they want to see a picture and decide for themselves. And indeed, a picture can or should at least supply some needed objectivity. And although some people complain that pictures reduce the entire process to a kind of online beauty pageant, I don't think that's necessarily true. A picture can reveal more than just good looks. To a practiced eye, it can reveal warmth, humor, intelligence, and all sorts of other traits. If you're only allowed to post one picture, it should be a simple head and shoulders shot in clear focus and no more than a year old. I would say less than a year if you've changed your hairstyle or hair color since the picture was taken, or have gained or lost more than 10 pounds. It should ideally be a picture of you alone. No friends, no kids, no pets. I've unfortunately seen pictures where a person's friends were quite a bit more attractive than the person was, which is not the reaction I'm sure she was trying to create. I've also seen way too many pictures where you see a man's arm around a woman's shoulder, but the rest of the man's body has been cropped out of the picture. Anyone looking at it is automatically going to assume it was an ex-husband or ex-boyfriend. And ex-husbands and ex-boyfriends are not exactly the people you want potential romantic partners to be thinking about when they're looking at your profile. If the particular dating site allows you to post additional photos, by all means do so. But be sure that there isn't a bad picture in the group that drags the good ones down. Additional pictures give you a chance to show yourself wearing different outfits or doing different activities, playing sports or what have you. But it's crucial that they should show you to advantage. My philosophy on that is, when in doubt, leave it out. So let's go over these first 5 commandments right now. The first and foremost one is be honest. And remember, that doesn't necessarily have to mean you have to say all the bad things. Because the second commandment is, say more about yourself and less about the fantasy person you hope to meet. The third commandment is, emphasize your best qualities. The fourth is, never apologize for being who you are. And the fifth commandment is, post at least one photograph, preferably more. When we come back after the break, I'll be telling you some more of the 10 commandments. And this is Jim Duzak, and you're listening to Relationship Radio.
Ask the experts. Call toll-free right now, 1-866-472-5787. And ask our All-Star team to answer your question. That's 1-866-472-5787.
Thank you for calling.
VoiceAmerica.com.
Hi, I'm Jim Duzak, host of Voice America's Relationship Radio. I'm the author of a book called Midlife Divorce and the Rebirth of Commitment. It's a book that deals not only with divorce, but with how to enhance your marriage and possibly avoid divorce. Every chapter of the book contains real-world information and advice on issues like sex, money, communication, in-law problems, and the temptation to have an affair. For those thinking of separating or filing for divorce, the book explains how to do it the right way. It also deals with the critical issues of life after divorce, including when to start dating again and how to avoid repeating the mistakes of the past. If you visit my website, www.attorneyatlove.com, you can read excerpts from all 17 chapters of the book. If you'd like to order the book, the site has direct links to Amazon.com and the other major online booksellers. And you can use the site to contact me. I'd love to hear from you.
The latest business information is made simple with the Voice America Business Network. The professionals in the business world bring you live talk radio shows featuring an array of business topics, strategies for building wealth, sales and marketing, stock trading, investing, and business technology. Voice America Business hosts are professionals in their fields and bring to the airwaves weekly business discussions that offer up-to-date information, advice, and education. The Voice America Business Network, the bottom line in business talk. Want to have behind-the-scenes access to some of the greatest minds of today? On Shift in Action, we feature leading-edge innovators who are building a more conscious, sustainable, and healthy culture. Host Stephen Dinan offers live shows with evolutionary leaders such as Deepak Chopra, Van Jones, and others who are creating new paradigms for conscious living. You can keep your finger on the pulse of the latest frontier work with our weekly transmission of Inspired Wisdom on Shift in Action, broadcast live every Tuesday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time, noon Eastern Time on Voice America.
Stimulating talk.
It gets those synapses in the brain firing really fast.
All the time. The #1 Internet talk station where your opinion counts. VoiceAmerica.com.
You're listening to Relationship Radio with your host, Jim Duzak, an inside look at marriage, divorce, and midlife dating. Now, back to Jim Duzak.
Welcome back. We're talking about what I call the 10 Commandments of personal ads. We're up to commandment number 6, and that one is understand what scares off or turns off the opposite sex. People frequently say things in their ads that convey an entirely different message from what was intended. And usually this is due to a fundamental misunderstanding of how the opposite sex thinks. We could talk all day about this particular subject, but let me just give you a few examples. I'll start with some of the things that women sometimes say in ads. Now, if you're a mother, I hope you won't take this one the wrong way, but women often talk too much about their kids in personal ads. There must be a million ads out there that say something like, I'm the mother of the most amazing and talented 12-year-old son and 9-year-old daughter. They're my life, on and on and on. Clearly, the message this woman or that a woman like that is trying to convey is, I love my kids, and I'm sure you will too. Unfortunately, that's not the message that most men will hear. Even men who like kids are nervous about getting into a pre-existing situation involving another man's kids. He may fear that the kids won't like him, or that there's no room for him in that little world, or that the kids are secretly trying to get their parents back together again and will be trying to sabotage any romance, or that the ex-husband is some jealous guy with a gun. There are all kinds of fears that a man might have, and not all of them are irrational. Kids are tough enough to deal with even when they're your own. A single mother in the dating world needs to send the message that she has a life beyond that of being a mother. Obviously, she can't sidestep the fact that she's a mother, but she needs to avoid giving the impression in her ad that her kids are and always will be the only things that matter in her life. Another common miscommunication that's transmitted in personal ads that women write involve interests and activities. Now, once again, I'm going to apologize for offending anyone, but I'm saying this for your own good. I don't care how much you love quilting, knitting, clothes shopping, reading interior design magazines, or watching Martha Stewart reruns, or participating in women's-only book clubs. Don't mention any of that in your ad. You may think you're sending the message that you love to look your best or create beautiful things, entertain graciously, or challenge yourself intellectually, by the way, which are good things. But most men will hear the message that they have nothing in common with you or that you can't truly relate to anyone other than other women. The irony is that most men do appreciate attractive surroundings, beautifully prepared meals, and intelligent, well-dressed women. They just don't care what goes into it all. They don't want to read about it or talk about it or deal with the planning, preparation, and the seemingly endless obsessing over it. They just want to enjoy it. So maybe there is a solution there. With that in mind, your ad can refer to the product, not the process. I remember reading an ad once that said, picture yourself on my lakeside deck, watching it get dark, enjoying your martini and my company. Again, I think that works a little bit better than talking about her Martha Stewart tablecloths or whatever. Now, men in their ads often send a different kind of unintentionally negative message because men tend to re-enter the dating world much sooner after a divorce than women do. By the way, let me just say as an aside that men are something like 10 times more likely to get married in the first year after their divorce than women are. But let me get back to this, because men are much more likely to get back into the dating world and in some cases to remarry. Their divorce is usually in the forefront of their mind. In other words, they've been divorced just recently, and their divorce and everything having to do with their ex-wife is, as I say, very much on their mind. And when things are on their mind, a lot of your thoughts will spill over into the personal ad that you're trying to write, including the bitterness of a bad divorce. I saw one recently on Craigslist where a man wrote, "Prove to me that all women aren't liars and cheats and gold diggers." Now, I'm sure that guy, I shouldn't say I'm sure, but I'm sure that guy believes that he got a raw deal in his divorce. But what woman would ever want to get involved with someone who has a chip on his shoulder and has clearly not worked through the issues underlying his divorce? Unless a woman is looking forward to being this guy's therapist rather than his girlfriend, she wouldn't touch him with a 10-foot pole, and I wouldn't blame her. Another mistake that men make in their ads, or in their responses to women's ads, is to be inappropriately sexual. Unless you're on a site that's officially labeled an adult dating site, it's a big turnoff to women when a man makes sexual comments or innuendos before he even knows the woman. What I like to say is that even women who love sex don't like to feel they're answering a sex ad. So that's commandment number 6. Understand what scares off or turns off the opposite sex. Commandment number 7 is be specific. Generalities in personal ads are dull and often meaningless, but specifics get attention. When people list their interests and hobbies in their online profiles, they often say things like, "I love to read," or "I enjoy traveling," or "I'm a sports fan." But what do these things mean, if anything? You say you love to read, but what? Comic books, romance novels, cookbooks, biographies, murder mysteries, poetry? And you love to travel, but where? Do you go to the Caribbean every winter? Do you go to ski resorts? Do you love big cities like New York or London? Do you go to gambling destinations like Las Vegas or Atlantic City? You love sports? Well, do you love all sports equally? Don't you have a favorite sport or a favorite team? People relate to specifics, not generalities. If you say in your ad that you love reading Stephen King novels, that gives some useful information about you that people can connect with. If you say that Vancouver is your favorite city or that your dream vacation would be a Scandinavian cruise, that gives people something to relate to. And if you say you're passionate about the Oakland Raiders or the New York Yankees or the LA Lakers, that information makes another sports fan sit up and take notice, even if he or she isn't a fan of the same team. In fact, if he's not a fan of the same team, if he hates your team, he might be more inclined to respond in a good-natured way, just to ask you how could an otherwise intelligent person be a fan of the Lakers. Occasionally, people go overboard in their ads. I've seen some where they seem to be listing their 50 favorite movies or their 75 most influential books that they've read. But normally, it's much better to be as specific as possible about your interests and hobbies. The 8th commandment is proofread everything. As a lawyer and writer, I'm probably a little more concerned about correct grammar and word usage, proper spelling, and good writing in general than most people are. But I can assure you, because I've heard it repeatedly over the years from so many different people, that the average reader will make judgments about you, good or bad, based on what you write in your ad and how you write it. Keep in mind, except for any pictures you may post, your ad is all that a reader knows about you. You can say you're a college graduate or even a PhD, but if your ad contains misspellings and improper grammar, a reader will probably think you're lying about your education. And don't assume that spell check is a substitute for proofreading. Spell check won't normally tell you if ITS should be IT''S, or whether THERE should be THEIR, or THEYRE. So I know that grammar and word usage is a dull subject to the average person, and increasingly it's seen as an irrelevant subject, but in the world of personal ads, it is anything but irrelevant. It's quite relevant to even to people who don't think of themselves as the sticklers for good grammar or English teachers. There's just something about a personal ad that is filled with misspellings that is just a real turnoff to people. So let me just go back over the other commandments and recap them. Commandment number 1 is be honest. Commandment number 2 is say more about yourself and less about the fantasy person you hope to meet. Number 3 is emphasize your best qualities. Number 4 is never apologize for being who you are. Number 5 is post at least one photograph and make sure that whatever photographs you post are good ones. Number 6 is understand what scares off or turns off the opposite sex. Number 7 is be specific. Number 8 is proofread everything. And number 9, that I'm going to get to right now, is, and this may be a surprising one, avoid romantic cliches. Maybe I should have said avoid cliches in general, but that would sort of be included under good writing. But I'm really talking specifically about romantic cliches. Now, don't get me wrong. I like sunsets as much as the next guy, and some of my happiest times have been spent walking the beach hand in hand with someone I loved, sitting together by the fire with a glass of wine after a dinner by candlelight. Hey, why not? Walking together in the rain, well, maybe I'll draw the line there. Now look, personal ads are about romance, so it's not surprising that romantic images are on people's mind when they sit down to compose their ads. The trouble is, these images are often so stereotypical that to use them in an ad bespeaks a lack of originality more than the presence of a romantic soul. Because everyone seems to use them, they don't help your ads stand out. Even worse, they can sound absurd. Here in southern Arizona, for example, I see ads all the time from local people who say that their ideal date is a walk on the beach. Now, we do have plenty of sand around here, but the nearest beach is 400 miles away. Are you suggesting we go to Mexico or Malibu on our first date? And if so, who's paying? I'll be back with more of the 10 Commandments of Personal Ads here on Relationship Radio. This is Jim Duzak.
Talk, talk, talk. That's all we do is talk. If you'd like to talk, call us toll-free right now at 1-866-472-5787. 1-866-472-5787. That's it. VoiceAmerica.com.
Hi, I'm Jim Duzak, host of Voice America's Relationship Radio. I'm the author of a book called Midlife Divorce and the Rebirth of Commitment. It's a book that deals not only with divorce, but with how to enhance your marriage and possibly avoid divorce. Every chapter of the book contains real-world information and advice on issues like sex, money, communication, in-law problems, and the temptation to have an affair. For those thinking of separating or filing for divorce, the book explains how to do it the right way. It also deals with the critical issues of life after divorce, including when to start dating again and how to avoid repeating the mistakes of the past. If you visit my website, www.attorneyatlove.com, you can read excerpts from all 17 chapters of the book. If you'd like to order the book, the site has direct links to Amazon.com and the other major online booksellers. And you can use the site to contact me. I'd love to hear from you.
Hodge Show.
Are you ready for some football? Well, here it comes. The Owen Hodge Show is bringing you the funniest hour in sports talk radio. This action-packed show is hosted by the outspoken fullback, Big Hodge, and the knowledgeable defensive back, Odie. This show will focus on the NFL, but touch on all things sports. Owen Hodge will provide you with a true player's perspective that'll give you insight, make you think, and definitely make you laugh. Owen Hodge have accumulated 6 championship rings, so obviously they know things. Check out the Owen Hodge Show at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern on the Voice America Sports Network.
The Owen Hodge Show. Owen Hodge Show.
Are you ready to grow your business? Listen for the Independent Business Owners Show with your coach, Rick Corrado. This entertaining talk radio program will bring you the tools to help increase your business. You'll learn sales success, time management, lead generation, business development, life balance, and much more. Rick Corrado is here to help you take your business to the next level. Listen for the Independent Business Owners Show, heard live every Monday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, 8 a.m. Pacific on the Voice America Business Network.
Streaming live. The leader in Internet talk radio. VoiceAmerica.com.
You're listening to Relationship Radio with your host, Jim Duzak, an inside look at marriage, divorce, and midlife dating. Now, back to Jim Duzak.
Hello again. Talking about the 10 commandments of personal ads and online dating profiles, and I was before the break talking about commandment number 9, which is avoiding romantic cliches along the lines of dinners by candlelight and walks by moonlight and that kind of thing. And again, I don't mean to in any way belittle the sentiment. I love fantasizing about those kinds of things myself, but you're best off not putting them in personal ads, mainly because they are unoriginal. The person reading it will not think that you're so much a romantic as just a person who doesn't have any imagination. Well, what can you say then, though? You still want to express the fact that you're a romantic person. Well, I say that a truly romantic person doesn't need to look for a romantic setting necessarily. He creates one. In your ad, you could focus on pampering or on the little treats that make an ordinary occasion a romantic one. I've seen some ads that say things like, "Let me make you the best margarita you've ever had," or "I give great shoulder massages. Need one after a long day at work?" Or "There's a hammock on my patio waiting just for you." I'm not saying you should necessarily use those lines, but that's, I think, a better example. Those are better examples of at least showing some creativity in coming up with creating a romantic image than to just fall back on the usual, walks hand in hand on the beach and that kind of thing. Now I'd like to talk about the 10th commandment, which is, don't rely exclusively on your own profile to get results. To make full use of the system, you have to respond to other people's profiles. Once you've done all the work of composing and proofreading a good ad, choosing the right pictures, and getting over the psychological barriers of putting yourself back into the dating world, it's tempting to just sit back and see what happens. Plus, you've done a lot of work, and you're probably not up for doing much more. But if you do that, you're missing out on at least 50% of the potential matches out there. You need to invest a reasonable amount of time searching for likely prospects, reading their profiles, and responding to the ones that sound most promising. Notice, though, that I said a reasonable amount of time. People can and often do go absolutely crazy in their online search process, reading hundreds and even thousands of ads and winding up more confused than when they started. I personally don't think you should read dating profiles for more than an hour at a time. After that, you have diminishing returns. Your head can't even process these things at some point. And when I say an hour, I don't mean an hour every single day. 2 or 3 times a week should be more than enough. You probably already know that most online services allow you to search for matches on the basis of age, geography, educational levels, smoking and drinking practices, and even things like astrological signs. Narrowing your search obviously is crucial. You know, if you're a member of Match.com with 3 million potential matches to deal with, narrowing your search is the first order of business. But be sure you're not automatically eliminating good people for no good reason. For example, you may feel that you're most comfortable with people who are no more than 5 years older or 5 years younger than you. That sounds reasonable enough, but shouldn't you at least be open to meeting someone who's right for you in every other way, but who's 6 or 7 years older or younger than you? Keeping with this example, what I would do is to use, say, 10 years in either direction as the search criteria. When you get the results, you might give a greater preference to people who are within 5 years of your age, but you'll at least take a quick look at those more than 5 years older or younger just to see if they've got some special qualities that the ones that are closer in age to you may not have. Assuming your dating service has this feature, it's crucial to check out when the person you're thinking of writing to last logged onto the site. Particularly with the free and low-cost sites, a lot of people fill out a profile and play around with the site for a day or two and then totally forget about it. Depending on the site, they may continue to be listed as active members, even though they haven't visited the site in months and months. If a person hasn't logged on to the site for a month or more, I would say don't waste your time writing to him or her. And realistically, I wouldn't hold out much hope for people who haven't logged on for 2 or 3 weeks. You can go in the other direction, though. Anya. If somebody always seems to be online, and sometimes your site will tell you that, you know, online now or online in the last 30 minutes or things of that nature, they could just be somebody who sees the whole thing as a kind of game. You know, there are plenty of people out there who have lots of pen pals, but no real interest in actually taking the relationship to the next level, which, of course, is actually meeting in person. Now, I'll get to that in a second, but meeting in person, that is. But I want to mention a couple of other things. I'd also say that you normally shouldn't spend a lot of time searching for matches in faraway places, especially if you're just getting started in the whole online dating scene, unless you're thinking of course, moving to another state, or you have family or work connections that cause you to travel frequently to a particular place. Now, don't get me wrong, I think long-distance relationships can work, but I think it's, in general, a low percentage approach. I'd also like to say that when you do find somebody whose ad you find interesting, definitely write to that person, but keep the initial contact short and sweet. Say what it is about their ad or picture that appeal to you. You know, you could say, I love your smile, or I see that you have 2 kids. I do too. Or I was at Ohio State around the time you were there. Maybe we know each other and don't even know it. Things like that. You don't have to say too much. You normally don't have to say a great deal about yourself, because on most online services, when one person writes to another, the person who receives the message can just immediately click on the other person's profile. So whatever you have written in your profile, the other person can call up right away. So it's not, it's really a waste of time to repeat that. The other reason to keep it short and sweet is that, unfortunately, there's a good chance you may not hear back from that person, no matter what you say, and you don't want to be spending a great deal of time writing to people who may not respond. Now, I'm not excusing bad manners, but some people get dozens of emails every day through these sites and don't have time to respond to each of them, at least not in a timely manner. And then, as I mentioned a moment ago, other people have a sort of hit-or-miss approach about logging onto the site or even checking their emails. And then you get people who will react negatively if you're telling your whole life story to a complete stranger. They may, at some level, find it interesting, but they may also feel so overwhelmed by your show of interest and all the things you say that they feel incapable of responding. I mentioned before that your goal all along really should be to try to meet the person. And I would say that unless you're talking about somebody who lives a long way away from you, or there are other circumstances that are making it impossible to meet within the first week or two after you've made acquaintance with them through emails, you really want to get that process going as fast as possible. Because when you think about it, online searches really are nothing more than a way of narrowing the field and producing some candidates you might like to meet. It's not truly dating at all. When you think about it, it's a precursor to dating, or a first step in determining if there might be an attraction between you and that other person. The truth is, you can learn more about someone in 5 minutes when you're actually face-to-face with him than you can in 5 months of email exchanges. Think about it. You can learn what he really looks like, what he sounds like, whether he has any social skills, or conversely, whether he has any obnoxious or irritating habits. And most importantly, you'll learn whether there's any chemistry between you. Now, I'm not saying that chemistry is the answer to everything, but I am saying that without chemistry, the relationship doesn't have much of a chance, no matter how closely your interests and backgrounds may match up. But that doesn't mean that the online process isn't important, or that you should do it in a half-hearted way. If you're going to do it right. And following these 10 commandments should ensure that you move quickly from the personal ad stage to the world of real dating, and with any luck, to a committed relationship with someone who's right for you. I wanted to say also, in connection with chemistry and matches and things of that nature, that, as you probably know, there are these sites out there, such as eharmony.com, and there's another one I think called chemistry.com, and even some of the free sites, totally free sites like plentyoffish.com, offer services of where you can fill out these long questionnaires, and supposedly they can match you up with people that you have a high percentage of being attracted to, or them being attracted to you. I'm not totally ruling out the possibility that those kinds of things can work, but one thing to keep in mind is that for men in particular hate to fill out those kinds of questionnaires. They have done study after study. I subscribe to something called Online Dating Journal, and I've seen at least half a dozen studies that they've produced there that have said that men either never fill out they never even bother trying to fill out those kind of questionnaires, or they give up after about 10 or 15 questions. Most men think it's just a lot of garbage, just a lot of stupid stuff. So keep in mind that the sites that do that, there's only a small percentage of men in particular who are going to really engage in that. So my suggestion is, don't put an over amount of credence into that. The people who do fill it out are likely to be sort of a self-selected group of people, a type of person. And the sites that insist that you do that, they are, missing a lot of people who, otherwise would, you might be able to respond to. So anyway, we got one more break, but I will be back. One more segment, Relationship Radio. Jim Duzak.
Have you ever thought about having your own internet talk show? Well, if you said yes, then click About Us. Then click Be a Host to get more information. Or just call Jeff Spenard at 480-294-6417.
Say that again?
480-294-6417. VoiceAmerica.com.
Hi, I'm Jim Duzak, host of Voice America's Relationship Radio. I'm the author of a book called Midlife Divorce and the Rebirth of Commitment. It's a book that deals not only with divorce, but with how to enhance your marriage and possibly avoid divorce. Every chapter of the book contains real-world information and advice on issues like sex, money, communication, in-law problems, and the temptation to have an affair. For those thinking of separating or filing for divorce, the book explains how to do it the right way. It also deals with the critical issues of life after divorce, including when to start dating again and how to avoid repeating the mistakes of the past. If you visit my website, www.attorneyatlove.com, you can read excerpts from all 17 chapters of the book. If you'd like to order the book, the site has direct links to Amazon.com and the other major online booksellers. And you can use the site to contact me. I'd love to hear from you.
Total career success. What does it mean to you? Voice America presents a radio program dedicated to help you achieve your career goal. Even in times of economic uncertainty, you can achieve your financial goals. Whether you're a college grad, new in the working environment, or a top-level executive, you will benefit from the practical and proven advice on job search and career advancement. Join Ken and Cheryl Dawson every Monday at 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern for Total Career Success on Voice America.
Wake up with a unique daily show. Listen for Mitchell John in the morning. Mitchell will bring you news, sports, and stock news from yesterday. You'll hear interviews from high-profile figures from the world of sports, entertainment, politics, and authors. Mitchell will talk to people throughout America. This is a show that throws right down the center. It's fun, information, and yes, even a little bit of music. Catch Mitchell John in the morning at 6 a.m. Pacific Time, Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays on Voice America, and Thursdays on the Voice America Business Network.
The Internet's #1 talk station. #1 talk station. VoiceAmerica.com.
You're listening to Relationship Radio with your host, Jim Duzak, an inside look at marriage, divorce, and midlife dating. Now, back to Jim Duzak.
Hello again. Before we went into the last break, I was talking about a number of things relating to the online dating process, and I mentioned in passing that men tend to hate filling out long questionnaires having to do with trying to establish compatibility and talking about interests and attitudes and behaviors and all that kind of thing. Women are much more likely to get into that, but the other thing that men are not too wild about when it comes to online dating is spending money. In general, the more that a dating service costs, the more that the percentage of the members are going to be female. In other words, if a dating service costs $60 or $70 a month, that dating service is almost certain to have more women members than men members. Men simply feel that, in general, that they don't really need this, or that they might give it a try, but they don't want to invest too much in it. A lot of guys feel that they can do better just by going down to some bar on a Friday night. And so they might do this, just to see what happens, that kind of thing. So you often find that men will sign up for the free dating services, or they will sign up at the lowest possible level of the dating services that charge you. But those lowest levels, in many cases, don't allow you to do much of anything. They're really more teasers than anything else, in my opinion. They might allow you to check other people's profiles but not write to them. Or they may allow other people to write to you, but they don't put your profile, they won't put your profile at the top of any list, or they make it hard for other people to find you in the first place, so the chances of their ever writing to you is very slim. Now, I'm not trying to discourage women from joining dating services that cost money simply because there are more women on it. The reason is that the men who do spend the money, the kind of guy who is willing to pay $60 or $70 a month or even more, is the kind of guy who is serious about the process. He clearly wants to meet someone, and most likely he's looking for what he considers more of a high quality person than he's likely to find on a free dating site, or just that the kind of person he's likely to meet at his local bar on a Friday night. Now, whether he finds it or not is another story, but I would think that using that criteria, that even though women may still be in the majority in those services, it still might be worth it for a woman to have access to what you might consider a man who's more serious about trying to meet someone and trying to establish a serious relationship. So I have some other things to talk about, but I wanted to one last time go over these 10 commandments. The first commandment is be honest, which I mean simply don't lie. If you say that something is true, if you say you're a college graduate, you better be a college graduate. If you say you're divorced, be divorced. Number 2 is say more about yourself and less about the fantasy person you hope to meet. Again, everything you say about the other person narrows the universe of possible responses, and it establishes you as somebody who might be very picky and unrealistic. Number 3, emphasize your best qualities. Number 4, never apologize for being who you are, and that also means never say, my friends think that I have a sense of humor, or things like that. If you think you have a sense of humor, say so. Post at least one photograph is number 5. Number 6 is understand what scares off or turns off the opposite sex. Number 7, be specific about your interests and your hobbies. Number 8 is proofread everything. Number 9 is avoid romantic cliches. And number 10 is don't rely exclusively on your own profile to get results. In other words, you need to respond to other people's profiles in order to make full use of the system. We're coming to the end of the hour, and unfortunately, we're also coming to the end of our 13-week run on Voice America. In this day and age, it's not easy to get sponsors for a new radio show, and without sponsors, we simply can't continue. The previous 12 shows have all featured guests who are experts in marriage, divorce, widowhood, midlife dating, or some other aspect of men-women relationships. You may have missed some of these shows, but fortunately you can still listen to any or all of them at your leisure, or download them to MP3 form. Just go to my website, www.attorneyatlove.com, and click on The Buzz, B-U-Z-Z. You'll see at the bottom of that page the titles of all the shows. I guarantee you'll love the guests who have been on, and you'll find the shows informative and entertaining. I'm hoping, though, that Relationship Radio will be back before long. If you'd like to join my mailing list, I can let you know when I'm back on the air. Just send an email to Jim, J-I-M, at attorneyatlove.com, and I'll stay in touch, or you can just keep checking my website for updates. In any event, I want to thank you for listening and for telling your friends about the show. It's meant so much to me when I've heard from listeners, and your enthusiasm and support is the reason why I feel the show has been a success. So thanks again, have a great weekend, and spread some love around. Maybe we'll meet again before long on the next version of Relationship Radio. Goodbye for now. This is Jim Duzak.
Thanks again for joining us this week on Relationship Radio with Jim Duzak. Please join us again next Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, 2 p.m. Pacific Time on Voice America. Have a great weekend.
Thanks again for listening to the preceding program, brought to you on the Voice America Variety Channel. For more information about our network and to check out additional show hosts and topics of interest, please visit VoiceAmericaVariety.com. The Voice America Talk Radio Network is the worldwide leader in